Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all the way. If you keep on the sunny side of life.
Hi, thanks for taking a few minutes to watch or listen to this cabin talk. I want to set up a little bit about what we're talking about this weekend, that we're talking about why kids matter. I heard an old story where two people were talking about that they went to church and someone said there were 2.5 people gave their lives to the Lord last night. And the other person said, do you mean that 2 adults and a child? He said, no, it was 2 children and an adult. That adult's halfway used up. Now that kind of thinking is kind of counterintuitive to us because of maybe how we grew up. We tend to have this idea that adults are maybe more important, or maybe they get more deference, or maybe they demand more deference. But that is not what Jesus taught. We are impacted by the culture that we live in, the families we grew up in. The family you grew up in, kids are to be seen and not heard. One person said to me, if I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. Now, I understand that some of you might say, well, that's just not real, because what about all this helicopter parenting or now drone parenting when it comes to smartphones? But even that can be an indicator that we really think that our kids are so fragile and so foolish that we have to keep, basically an entire surveillance system on them at all times. I don't know what the total solution to that is, but I do know that sometimes we feel very, very, we tend to look at them differently because we wonder what they can do for us or what they demand of us and how much they demand of us. But the fact that the boy is the father of the man gets lost on us, that how we relate to them and how we interact with them as kids will have a huge impact on where they end up as adults. It's not all of it, and we're not the only ones. Parents are maybe 30 to 40% of the impact. There are many, many other people, which is also why all of us need to be involved in this, in how we relate to children, and to have a way of relating to children the way Jesus does. This is so important that, we get lost in this idea. We kind of get lost in the moment, but Jesus makes it clear that you will need to continually recommit yourself, all of us will, to his vision of who matters and what matters, because we are living in an anti-child world. Remember, who are the greatest number of casualties when there's violence or warfare? It is children. Who are the ones that suffer the most when it comes to families falling apart? It is children. Who are the ones that are most impacted by poverty, which they have very little to do with? They can't really go out and get a job for themselves. It is children. So we live in an anti-child world, and so did Jesus. And we also live in an anti-child culture. And I want to... I'll talk more about this as we come to the weekend and we talk about why kids matter or why children matter. But there is this extreme temptation for us to get pulled off by this culture into self-service and self-indulgence and making it all about ourselves, and even childishness, not childlikeness, but childishness, like trying to relive your childhood or even vicariously relive your childhood through the children that are in your life. This is so strong in our society right now that you have to check your heart on a day-to-day basis. Jesus rebuked his followers for being so stuck in their culture's anti-child mindset. And he will do the same to us if we don't stay alert. If we keep getting pulled into an anti-child mindset, we will hear the rebuke of the Lord in many, many ways. In Mark 10:13, it says they were bringing children to him so that he might touch them. But the disciples rebuked them. It says they scolded them. Why are you bringing him? He's an important man. But when Jesus saw this, he was indignant or angry. And he said to them, permit the children to come to me and do not hinder them. For the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a child will not enter it at all. And he took them in his arms and he began blessing them and laying his hands on them. I want to give you a little bit of an assignment before the weekend, just to try it where you can. And some of you will be able to, and some of you won't, but try doing this as you have an appropriate opportunity. And I realize some of you are living with your grandkids, or you have grandkids with you, or you have your own kids with you. Some of you have friends that have kids and you have a relationship with them. So you need to do this in a way that's appropriate and doesn't seem off-putting. But get down, when you're around a child this week, get down on a child's level. Get down on their level. Remember, it might be a little bit intimidating to have a 17-foot, if it was the scale with you, to have a 17-foot tall human trying to talk to you. Get down on their level and look them in the eyes and speak their name. Notice them, see them, really see them. Let them know that you see them. If you can, ask a question. Don't argue with them. Just ask a question. If you don't have any kids in your life, then pray for the kids that you know of or the kids that you see, maybe your neighbor kids. Ask God to show you how you can help that child come to Jesus. Maybe it's your grandkids or your great-grandkids, or maybe it's the neighbor kids, and you just pray for them. Pray for the opportunity. Maybe you'll be able to be like many people that are, maybe you sitting in church, some grandma or some friend or neighbor took an interest and pointed you to Jesus and maybe brought you to church. Make yourself available to God for this assignment. And then make yourself available to God for ministering to kids in church or in some way, maybe in a class, or take your time in the nursery. Commit to be trained. That's part of it. Don't just say, I got this all figured out. You have to be trained and kind of tuned up to know how to deal with everything in this cultural moment. And then give to ministries that point children to Jesus. This is really important. Sometimes giving so others can do something that you feel ill-equipped to or whatever is a first step. Now remember, we're in a big transition, a big change at TFBC. Pastor Mike we're having a big celebration for him coming up after Thanksgiving to celebrate his ministry with us and how he's changing his ministry. He's going to begin to work with seniors, and he's going to help with our worship team. So in one sense, he's retiring from his work with children, but he is not retiring from TFBC. He's just changing his ministry status. But we want to celebrate that with him and all that's happened. But I want to encourage you to realize that as a church, we have a tremendous opportunity. There are hundreds of kids moving into our area with their families, and we need to rise once again to that opportunity and not think of ministry from this kind of anti-child cultural kind of tide that we're in, so that we can become very focused on that. I know it's hard, it's struggle, but you know what? It's really worth it. And we've seen the fruit of that over and over again. So pray about this. And then this Sunday, I want to see you. Hope that if you're not in a class, try the breakfast class. There's just great things going on in there. And it's a great meal that Tony puts on. And also, you could put your kids in a class. That's one of the best things you can do for them. Put them in a Sunday school class or put them in during that time. And so I want to encourage you, be praying for us and be present, and then do this assignment. Get down on their level. That's what God does for us. Look them in the eyes, speak their name, interact with them, pray for them, and pray for me too. I'm looking forward to seeing you coming up. We'll see you soon.